Boardable is a platform that that we can engage with, whether we're doing meetings IRL or we're working remotely. There are a lot of tech tools now for our sector that have brilliantly come along.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the nonprofit sector is not always the quickest to adopt to
Sure.
tech,
That's true.
for a lot of reasons. But what are you seeing when it comes to best practices? And I ask this question with a framework of, if you will, ageism, because we have a lot of board members that skew to an older demographic.
Sure.
Who have maybe spent 30, 40 years of board service and it's always been done a certain way. Now we have these tech gates that are opening.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like, what are you seeing with that bigger picture, and what should we be thinking about?
Yeah, so I had a couple things in mind when we were thinking about this topic. I'm going to flip them around to answer that, because I think that's very real. I think this there's a stereotype, earned or not, that is, hey, how do I tech for nonprofits is going to, especially boards, you need a different approach than you would need if you were launching a consumer app on the iTunes store, right, tomorrow, right? Where you're like, hey, this is going to be my 10 and 9-year-old, they figure things out in 5 seconds that would take me a week. So let's start with, I think there's two really important things when you think about the tools that you're considering. First is setting a kind of a minimum expectation threshold. What do I expect the folks on my board, the members, to actually do, right? So if I say I'm setting this now, no matter what we decide we're going to use, we're not going to email these things back and forth anymore. It's insecure. I think it's a little bit risky. From now on, we're going to have one place, and I'm going to expect everybody in here to go to that place. Setting that expectations makes it, can't have a list of 30 of them, but you can have a list of maybe 4 or 5 where you say, guys, this is really important that we do it this way. It lets people overcome a little bit of the change management issues, right? It's very, like, I've always just had it emailed to me. I've always had it delivered to me. It's always been paper. Like, what did a great job of forcing change management was the pandemic. It's like, we're not delivering you paper anymore. That might be dangerous. So we're going to send it, even if we send it to email. So find those things that really matter to you and then start from there. The second thing I would say is start small and grow, right? It's really easy to do. When you've picked your set, if you're saying, hey, we're not going to use email anymore, or I get much better attendance if I can make this a hybrid remote in-person meeting, you're going to have to figure out how to be able to log in. Now you can pick those tools and really dial in on the ones that matter the most. And then those other ones, because again, to your point, the audience is different, and you don't want to create a lot of pain for that audience to get the things that you really need. So set the expectations and start small. I'd say last tip with any of this is don't overestimate your ability to put a system of tools together. So if you're thinking about ideally how your board is going to run and how you're going to share documents and talk to each other and run meetings, if you've got 15 tools, even if you have somebody on your board who's very tech forward and says, hey, I can help set all this stuff up, every one of those is sort of a opportunity for chaos, right? Something to go wrong or get lost. And the amount of time goes up exponentially the more that you put in. So those 3 together kind of give you a very realistic blueprint for picking something that will cover your needs, allow you to set expectations, and you're not going to spend an arm and a leg, time or dollar wise, getting it in place. You can do it fairly quickly and not cheaply necessarily, but effort is so underrated. Like, effort is so expensive. Sometimes you really need to account for that's way too much effort to put 5 things off the shelf together to do what we need.
Yeah. So this is a tough question, but what should we be thinking about in terms of implementing this type of change? Is there a magic number? It's going to take you 3 meetings, 6 meetings, 6 months, 6 years. I mean, what do you and your team at Boardable do when it comes? And I know that's a huge question. I realize that's a huge question, but realistically, what should we be thinking about because I think a lot of times with software, we feel like, okay, we're going to do it and it's going to be great. And we're going to start it on a Tuesday. And by next Wednesday, it'll all be done and good to go. And that's
Yeah.
not the case.
There's that saying, right? It's like physician, know thyself, right?
Yes.
Well, board, know thyself. You have to really know what is is my board going to be, are they pretty tech savvy? Are they pretty, up on the latest and greatest? Are they bought in? Are they going to be excited about this? Or is it the opposite? And it's going to be, hey, I need to spend more time individually with each person. I really need to spend more time thinking about what I introduce to our board, right? Piece by piece, building to a crescendo as opposed to everything all at once. And I know this is like the world's worst answer is when it has a lot of nuance to it, but the nuance is real. And we see boards that they're super motivated and they just come in and hit the ground running and they are off to the races. And we see the slow burn, right? We see hey, this is taking us a little longer. Maybe we come back and revisit their goals with them, or we come back and we talk about, hey, what are the things that are keeping you from being successful? And there's no shame in any of that. None. Like that is just who you are. And it just, eye on the prize, stick to your goals. Why did we start this journey? That's what you have to really keep track of. There is no set in stone number. I will say, if you feel like it's taking too long, it's always a great checkpoint to stop and just check it out. Like, hey, your gut will be a pretty good indicator of something isn't quite right. We're not quite getting there.
I've got to believe too, it's somewhat community forward. Like if you're in a community where, let's say, consent agendas are being used, or boardable for, our platforms being used, then you're going to have, because board members generally don't just serve on one board.
Correct.
You're probably going to have folks that are like, hey, I've been trained up by this other group that I'm involved with. And then they start sharing this information. I've got to believe there's some sort of lemming concept here where, we have groups that follow one another. And
that's very true. And we do see frequently boardable customers are boards that have a member or an executive director or someone like that who has used boardable elsewhere. Right. And they can come in because they shortcut like the learnings. Learnings are a big part of this. And if you've done it once and you can come in and say, there's all these benefits that we can access here. It's nice to have somebody to lead you across, like, hey, this is the stream. Let me lead you across it. So yes, absolutely. That will happen. I think again, the more complicated the solution, the more leading has to be done. So you have to be careful, right? If somebody says, hey, I've done this, but we have to go get these 20 tools you're all going to have to learn, you might need to pump the brakes on that and say, let's start with a couple of them because that might be our best bet.
So I think that's a lot of wisdom there. And for anything, I mean, my gosh, just implementing new fintech system, same thing. You got to kind of navigate this in.